G'day viewers, DanMill23. This is a response video to Geerup and to Sableckicken, who was involved in that video, I do believe. The stuff I'm going to have to do in two parts. I'm going to have to talk in two parts. This is because I need to be clear as I can be. This video is just going to be a bit of background about how we arrived at this point and sort of the background story from my point of view. And the second part of this video, sorry to put you through two videos guys, but the second part of the video is my is the meat of the video, is the important stuff, where I'll just talk about Geerup's fascinating response that he made to a previous video of mine. Okay, it all starts with another YouTube user called Mike of Korea. Now, I was cruising YouTube and I came across Mike of Korea. I kind of like the guy. He's got some really good, makes some really good points. In his video, he said that atheists don't burn books. It's the theists, the biblicists, that burn books. When I first heard that statement, you know, that sort of rang a little sort of alarm bell in my mind, and I thought, is that justifiable, you know? Can Mike of Korea actually back that up? And I thought to myself, well, what would Christians say to that? Started to have a think about a few of the possibilities, but I didn't pay it any more attention than that, and then I went on. A little while later, and only a little while later, I came across a response that Geerup had made to this very same video. Obviously, it seems obvious that the very same alarm bell had rung in Geerup's mind about atheists don't burn Bibles, and so Geerup made a whole video dedicated to just that point. Geerup had gone to quite some trouble to collect a whole pile of evidence and observations from YouTube and elsewhere of people burning Bibles. So I watched Geerup's response, and you know, perhaps my first thought was the not a true Scotsman argument, you know, they're not proper atheists. I thought that was a little bit weak. But clearly Geerup had shown a very convincing, very strong argument that Mike of Korea was unjustified in his statement that atheists don't burn Bibles. The sort of the skeptic in me, the Socratean contrary skeptic in me, then started to think about, in light of this strong evidence that atheists do burn Bibles, how could I address that? What could I do to refute that, considering that Geerup's response was watertight? You know, I thought, this is a bit of a challenge. What can I do? At the same time, I had another thought, and that was that a parallel thought, that when I try to bring some evidence, some sort of proof of something to a biblicist person, Christian person, often I consider my case to be watertight, and usually this is, you know, absolutely refuted. You know, something that I think is totally watertight, and a real good example of something pretty close to the truth, and people sort of knock it back and don't believe it and won't accept it. So here I thought, well, you know, it's a chance for me to check out the world from the other side of the fence. So what I wanted to do was see if I could refute Geerup's very convincing argument, but I was going to take it from a sort of a creationist point of view, because I feel that they give themselves the luxury of talking garbage and allowing themselves to be convinced of that garbage, though it doesn't seem to convince anybody else. So I wanted to, you know, a bit in the vein of Poe's law, a little bit, come up with some hopelessly pathetic argument. And so I went for a bit of a cruise on YouTube to get a bit of inspiration about the angle. You know, what angle could I take on this? to try and achieve this. And then it started to dawn on me that the angle that I would need to take, the angle that I would have to take, is to totally absolve the atheist of any responsibility for burning those Bibles. That's really the only way out, is it's not their fault. And then, you're left with the question, well, whose fault is it? And then you can just blame the Bibles. It's the Bible's fault. The Bible brought it on itself somehow. Atheists are good and honest and true and blameless and justified and honourable. And then it occurred to me that this is the exact situation that we end up with when people, when atheists bring up the point that, how can God be good when hell exists and God's willing to send people to hell? Typically, we will say, it's God's fault. God created hell. God created the world. God created sin. God created the game. God makes the rules. God chose it to be this way. So how can God be good with this, flammable torture He's willing to inflict on people infinitely? And the answer that we get given is that God didn't create evil, or God didn't create hell, or God didn't create sin. You created sin. Humans created sin. Humans' fault. The blame gets shifted onto the humans, to people. And more than that, it's your choice. God gave you free will. You can choose to obey the rules, or you can choose to burn. If you want to burn, well, that's your choice. And so, I made a video where I had two levels to the video. A superficial level, where I was making a hopelessly crappy argument that atheists were not to blame in any way for those burning of Bibles, and I was going to shift the blame onto the Bibles themselves, the actual objects, the books. It was the book's fault. But on a deeper level, I was drawing this parallel between this blameless idea of God, and comments are coming in continuously, and the book burning, right? So, Geerup made a response. Now, I canvassed a whole bunch of people who watched my video, and I checked out on a number of different channels because people had responded in different locations, and I found some interesting statistics. 80% of people, I roughly guess, 80% of people saw the two levels in my video. They saw the superficial level and they saw the deeper underlying meaning. There was a very small percentage, 5% of people who were totally mystified and couldn't make heads or tail of anything I was saying. And then there was another very small percentage of people who only saw the superficial level. And that includes Geerup, Geerup, but also some atheists. But I think pretty much all of the Christians who responded only saw that superficial level, which is interesting. Okay, so Geerup went and made a video where he refuted everything that I said in my video, but he was only applying it to that superficial level. Now, the interesting point is I also canvassed views about Geerup's video, and interestingly, there was no ambiguity in that. Everybody thought that Geerup was being totally on the level. In which case, there was not a single person, including myself, who thought that Geerup understood the deeper meaning and was thus doing a sort of a post-law kind of a post-law multi-layered thing like I have done. So, can I ask you all to join me over in the next video where we'll discuss Geerup's response.